All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the College of Complexes tonight. My name is Tim, and I'd like to welcome you. The College of Complexes consists of the following format. Number one, we'll have a brief announcements period. And number two, our speaker will then speak to up to 60 minutes or so, or whatever, with a small turnout. Charlie might take a little longer. Then we'll have our questions and answers period with questions only. Then we'll have our infamous rebuttal period. After our rebuttal period, we will then go and let our speaker have the last word. And when you're ready, we'll go. Now, let's get started with the announcements period. All right, Charlie, when you're ready, go ahead and get the announcements started.
Okay, welcome everyone to meeting number 3,814 of the College of Complexes, the playground for people who think. Now, although I'm not a capitalist, I will give an advertisement for our upcoming programs. Next week on April 26th, we will welcome former member of U.S. Congress, Marie Newman, talking about her new book on activism and creating a movement. So April the 26th. On May the 3rd, our special May Day speaker will be Justin Tucker. We'll be talking about the works of Saul Alinsky, specifically Rules for Radicals. Do they have application today? Special May Day speaker, May 3rd. On May the 10th, we'll welcome back Eric Mao, political analyst, who will be giving us a discussion of, he claims there's a multipolar world, multipolar, P-O-L-A-R world. On March the 17th, they haven't been here in a number of years, the American Monetary Institute will be talking about the U.S. economy. Should be a very relevant program. On May the 24th, Tom Tresser will be returning, activist around Chicago. We'll be discussing about a previous culture war that he was involved with and the culture war that's in progress right now. Very relevant topic for the College of Complexes. Is there a culture war? On May the 31st, we will be open, so if you'd like to speak, we also have 4 dates open in June. Please contact me with the title and a written description of what you'd like to talk about. Okay, Tim, take it away.
All right. Hang on while I unshare the screen here. It's going to take a minute here to do this. Excuse me. Okay. All right. I just want to welcome everybody again to the College of Complexes. Let's welcome Charlie Paidock to the thing, and let's go ahead, Charlie, and take it away.
Okay.
Remember, go to full screen, Charlie. Okay.
Yeah. Slideshow.
From beginning.
There we go.
Okay,
okay.
Good.
We're all set. So welcome. This is a special Earth Day program. Earth Day is September 22nd. And I thought to put together a program to see how green you are as a voter, as a citizen, as an individual. What are your views? If you can pass this quiz, you can make an assessment. I'm sorry I had printed handouts, but Tim got busy and forgot to bring along with him. So you just have to keep your score mentally. But this is just an overall assessment to see how green, what is your basic knowledge of green topics and issues. And if you can pass all of these, you're pretty much an eco guy like me. Okay, now what I did was I went to various things like Green New Deals, the mission statements of eco nonprofits, a guide for green voters, and things like that to see what was the primary concern in putting this compilation together. So that was my method approach to do this. Now, one thing I'd like to point out in the beginning is a few general issues before we get into the actual quiz itself. I'd like to explain, a lot of people don't understand. They think a Green New Deal, which I have prepared my own and presented at the college, is that a Green New Deal is more than just newer projects or job programs. It's an overall transition of the entire economy. As you can see here, a metropolitan area that is using on external portions clean energy in which to operate the city. So a Green New Deal is more than just a few projects and focus. Some people focus on one thing, petroleum or something like that, and think that's the end all and be all of it. And that's not the case. Now, currently, by far and away, the overriding issue in general discussion is the position of the President of the United States regarding ecology and the environment. And Trump, by executive order, said that the calculation of the so-called cost of carbon is marked by logical deficiencies. So anybody who's ecological is logically deficient. And this position, ecology, has no basis in empirical, no basis. It should be elimination from consideration in making any federal regulatory decision. So we're in a pretty dark period here when in terms of public policy. Now, one of the things, if you're a green voter, I've used these for many, many years. I look for green voter guides. And the one on the upper right is the League of Conservation Voters, which has been put out for many, many years. It monitors the US Congress. And the other one on the left is the Illinois Environmental Council, which was here at the college. And they put out an environmental scorecard on Illinois issues. So you have two gods. Now, I also came across another scorecard in which, like in Canada, they rate the provinces on their energy efficiency, which perhaps is something we should do in the United States if it has not been done already someplace. In terms of Illinois, we elected two individuals who appear to have pretty good voting records regarding the environment. They got 100% scores, and their overall lifetime scores are in the 80s, 90s. Another scorecard that I like is put out by the Defenders of Wildlife. And there you can see I listed the Illinois delegation, how well they did in terms of protecting species from extinction. And you can see quite the dichotomy between the Democrats on the top and the Republicans on the bottom, who score absolute zero. So anybody who says Democrats and Republicans are the same are entirely miscorrect and don't know what they're talking about. There's a very, very, very obvious distinction. It is obvious here, it's just one measure between the two parties, not only on this issue, but others. But anybody who claims, I hear this all the time, oh, they're all the same. No, they're not the same. And anybody who says so does not follow Congress. Now, there's another question before we get into it. What do you do on the occasion of these dates? There's Earth Day and nationwide, there's World Environment Day. Have you ever done anything specific to celebrate Earth Day? Have you gone to a lecture like today or helped clean up a riverbed? or done something, clean up a park, something like that, or going to a conference or anything. So what have you done? Have you ever done anything? I do something every year. Another issue that's really hot right now and certainly deserves to be looked at is the place of plastic in our lives. Plastic is made in a variety of ways. It's said that no one is more than 3 feet at any time away from something made of plastic. It permeates our lives. Now, in terms of a culture change, how we're going to get off plastic, some of the things are obvious, like the bottles, but other ones are not admit a solution quite that well. Now, this just came out the other day that every human brain contains the equivalent of a spoonful of plastic. So your brain is 99.5% brain matter, and the rest is plastic. So these minuscule, it gets broken down, plastic gets broken down to micro spot dot of things, and this matter has entered your brain and colluded your thinking. This is a serious issue. Another thing you might want to look at is in terms of transportation mode. Which one do you use most frequently or almost never? Do you drive a gas guzzling SUV all the time around town? Or do you ever get out of it and get on public transit or a high-speed rail train? All right. But anyhow, we're getting into the quiz now. And that's what I put together in my capacity as the secretary of the Chicago Greens. First question. What word should be inserted in this phrase? Just as the blank rise, so shall we. Is it dead, sun, or oceans? And the answer, just as the oceans rise, so shall we. There you can see a young lady put together a protest sign. And why is this a concern? Because disruptive and expensive nuisance flooding is estimated to take place from 300% to 900% more frequently within U.S. coastal communities. I was down in Tampa, Florida, not too long ago, and that place is just looking for a disaster. They look at this scene here. And I ask you, with anticipated flooding, higher ocean levels, look what they did. They're just, anybody who has that real estate should get out of there as quick as they can or count their losses, because that's just worthless real estate. So that's another thing facing it. The next question. Okay, count your score on one. What group is most likely to become eco-activists? What segment of the population demographically are most likely to embrace ecological issues? The young people, the 99%, or the uneducated? And the answer is the young people. The young people, if anything, it disturbs the conservative elements, is that the young people almost entirely are very conscious of environment and the global warming, climate change issues, as well they should be. This is the kind of books that they are reading. The heat will kill you. This is why this is not just a good idea. Life and death on a scorched planet. Our final warning. The young people are reading these books. It's a final warning. I don't know how much more direct you can get, but apparently still people insist on it. There you can see some of the actions. There's around town, this is the Sunrise Group holding a rally for a livable planet. And another thing is, this group I came across, the last generation, they call themselves. Their plans, they want sustained disruption. It's a good idea. And they go into art museums and throw food at famous paintings. Here they threw tomato soup at this artwork. They got, and that's what I mean. They figure they're the last generation to inhabit the planet. And this is a good video out about this. Third question. In order to be a multi-issue party, the Greens have adopted 10 what? Slogans to shout at rallies, key values, or requirements for membership. Which do you think it is? What have they adopted? 10. And the answer is they have answered 10 key values. And there you see them listed there. Nonviolence, decentralization, community-based economics, respect for diversity, and so forth. So in order to become a national party, the Greens have branched out into other issues confronting society. They did this at the onset. So if you ever hear why they talk about 10 key values, is that they are focused, of course, on ecology, but that's not the only thing. Number 4, the Greens will not accept campaign contributions from A, the 1%, B, corporations, or C, registered Republicans. How do you answer? The answer is they will not take contributions from corporations. And there you see the major donors to Trump, Elon Musk at the top, and I list on down the companies, each of which have something to gain through his administration. Okay. Number 5, and I don't know if anybody will answer this one, but one of the Green Party candidates running for the U.S. Senate only recently kind of declared tentatively her candidacy, but she ran previously for the U.S. House. But which of these has indicated they will be a Green Party candidate? Sheba Asane, Tulsi Gabbard, or Nikki Haley? And the answer is Shibu. Another thing is with the elections, the Greens face a very difficult time as a third party to get on the ballot. If you'd like to assist in getting Greens on the ballot, volunteers are certainly welcome to collect signatures to get on the ballot. It's very, very difficult to get on the ballot in Illinois. Shibu will face probably 25,000 signatures at minimum. At minimum. Number 6. Which of these is adopted as part of the Green Party platform? A, the 10 Commandments, B, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or C, the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto?
I'm sure, Charlie, it'd be C for you.
Yeah. All right. And the answer is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Right.
In 1998, I sponsored an academic conference on the 50th anniversary of the UDHR, one of the universities. Now, relevant to this, on the day 1, our president issued an executive order, not upholding the principles of it, but removing the United States from the UN human rights body that overlooks the Universal Declaration. So that shows you the depth of his internationalism, isolationism, and disregard for human rights issues. Okay, let's go on to the next one, folks. Number 7. Every year we produce, now this is a tough one. Every year we produce 50 billion tons of what? 50 plastic bottles, greenhouse gases, or waste for landfills? Which one is it? 50 billion tons. What do we produce? Greenhouse gases. And there you see what they are. Now, they're not all equal. Although carbon dioxide is the predominant one, it has a lifespan of only a year or two, whereas methane will last at least a decade. Fluorinated gases are particularly nefarious. Well, what is, right, the need for changing the way we do, but 50 billion tons, is an incredible amount. It's equal to 21 cubic miles. This is an enormous part of our atmosphere. It was actually a thin layer in circumference around the Earth. There's various elements of the atmosphere, but the one we're talking about, G gas. So we've got to stop this G gas stuff, man, like today. Now there's another thing regarding G gases. Now you can see I broke down the economic activities that result in G gases. And now in generating electricity is about 27% of the cause of greenhouse gases. Manufacturing, about a third. Agriculture is quite a lot, about 1/5. Transportation is down there. That's surprising, but buildings also. And that's not the totality. This is not to equate the use of fossil fuels. Don't confuse this. The number one user of fossil fuels is transportation, followed by buildings. So don't confuse that. These are activities that produce greenhouse gases and not a measurement of the amount of fossil fuels that are used. There's a distinction in that. Number 8, the increased heat of the Earth is being stored where? In the ocean depths? Is it stored in the atmosphere? Or in mountain ranges of solid rock? Which do you think? Where is the heat going? Where is it being stored? It's being stored in the ocean. And one of the things that's rather disturbing is that the nights are warming faster than days. This is very bad. This is an extremely bad thing to happen from an ecological perspective. Another thing that's happening in the ocean depths, in addition to the heat, is the Dead Sea due to the chemical pollution that's going on, low oxygen levels, such as in the Gulf of Mexico, south of New Orleans, coming from the Mississippi River. No aquatic life forms can exist in these waters. So we're heating up the ocean as well as removing a possibility of it. The other thing is, I believe, I didn't research it lately, but is that island of plastic that I believe is floating someplace in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, let's go on to the next one. 9, the College of Complex's lecture library has several video presentations on A, proving there is no global warming, B, the Green New Deal and the ILGP, Illinois Green Party, and C, why eco-socialism will not work or save the earth. The answer is Actually, both A and B are correct. Um, uh, but we have had many lectures on on this topic. Here's some I just found casually looking, not not that long ago. We had the thing on plastic free, all about plastic, the plastic habit. Do you have a plastic habit? Have you developed a plastic habit? Anyhow, that was a book review, which is a good program. Another one we had that's in the lecture library, things you can do to save the planet and what they are doing in other countries. Here you can see there's the windmill. I put that in there. I said, this thing is immense. If you look at the size of that thing, incredible. And to put these along the coast to save energy. That's the extent of what's going on, at least overseas. Number 10, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor is A, contained and slowly cooling down. B, cooking like a barbecue. As C, was fixed and turned back on. Which do you think happened? This goes back to 1986. This is cooling down and contained, or was it fixed and turned back on? Which do you know? It is cooking like a barbecue. In addition, 57 accidents have occurred since Chernobyl. And you see the quote down below there? It's like the embers in a barbecue pit. Now, people want to come along and tell you that their designs are safe. They are the same technology as you see in this picture. Oh, it's safe. It will not happen. It will not happen. Well, it has happened. Not only there, but about 50 more times. So anything I hear about this, they're trying to change the narrative on this, and there's no way you can do it. An accident's an accident. Here's one of my favorite photos. Being a railroad guy, there's the Chernobyl railroad station today. And the last train left the station in 1986. So if you want to shut down your town, build one of them reactors. Oh, they're safe. Nothing ever is going to happen. It's okay. Don't worry. We know what we're doing. We have fail safe. We have done all kinds of things. So you can take a look there at what happened. That's what your town will look like. Union Station will look like. And this one, I have always been amazed. In a fit of pure lunacy, the USDEA, they actually did a research study to put nuclear reactors floating in bodies of water. Oh, that's brilliant. Let's contaminate. Hey, put one in the Great Lakes so we can contaminate the Great Lakes basin. That's a good idea. These guys have to be stopped. That's number one priority. Number 11, let's move on to something else now. And we're talking about another issue, factory farming. We saw some discussion of agriculture earlier, but factory farms are making the Midwest an economic powerhouse, B, uninhabitable, or C, a good place to go grocery shopping. The answer is, of course, B. They're making a place uninhabitable. Now, another thing that's a concern about this, in particular with global warming, is the increased incidence of food insecurity. And this is nothing to be kidding about. It's going to radically affect agricultural production. There you can see some of the things at the top that climate change would happen. There'd be temperature changes, changes in precipitation patterns, changes in extreme weather. You have extreme storms like we've never seen before. That's like the hurricanes are showing up. And the reductions in water availability may all reduce agricultural productivity. So it's going to get hit in many different ways. And global warming is the number one thing. So if you want to have food like on the left, you listen to guys like me. If you want fields like on the right, go ahead and listen to Donald Trump. One of the things I anticipate we are going to have to do in the United States is with global warming is nationalize U.S. food production. And instead of these Jules or Cermak foods, you're going to have to go to a food distribution center in your neighborhood. For welcome to all citizens in good standing. This is my prediction for the future. If we do not, this is going to be something we're going to have to do, just like food rationing during wartime. And that's going to be an ongoing feature of our lifestyles. Waiting in line, the products become available. You're going to have to wait in line. One of the things about nationalizing we could do is have all farm implements, for example, owned by the government, owned and operated by the government, applying fleet management principles. Makes good sense. Instead of every farmer having each trying to maintain their own implements, you collectively monitor the usage and maintenance repair of the equipment is essential to agriculture. And this is the way they do it in Soviet. They have repair stations to fix tractors and harvesting equipment. There's some of the things you can see: factory farming, which has some singular issues on its own. It is not a welcome trend in an industry. It is apparently profitable, but it's not producing nutritious food, and it certainly has no care whatsoever for the livestock penned up in cages such of this nature. Again, we mentioned young people. A lot of young people have taken up this issue, and they are active in animal rights. You can see they're dumping milk because it was achieved in improper fashion. But it's not food, they say, it's violence. Number 12. Let's see, there's one I bet you can't answer that. We always talk about outdoor air. You think air pollution is outdoor, but you're indoor right now. And what is the quality, the IAQ? What is the indoor air quality of the room that you're in? And indoor air quality can be what percent more polluted than outdoor air? Indoor air can be very bad for you. Can it be 18 to 20% worse, 10 times worse, or 100 times worse? Being inside a building, okay? It's 10 times worse. That's why, so 10 times, indoor air quality can be 10 times worse than outdoor. And that's why you have zero emission buildings. Green building technology is a singular topic. I produced a guide and a bibliography when I was in the government on green building technology. It's an emerging topic. There you can see here how they incorporated plant life on the side of this building, moss and little plants. This is what there's also, you might want to look at the U.S. Green Building Council and any architect, engineers, building managers, want to get credentials that they're LEED or get their building LEED certified. If you see a LEED certified building, leadership in energy and environment design. So architects, engineers, mechanical maintenance, things like that. There you can see one building there that incorporated a new feature, incorporating greenery, not just an occasional potted plant here or there, but actually as part of the structure itself. So very interesting stuff going on in terms of building technology. I'm sorry I don't have a recording of this, but the Chicagoans posted an Indian earth prayer, a spiritual healing music on what day? The 22nd, Earth Day, Trump's inauguration day, or Thanksgiving? It was last Earth Day, and I just put it up again on my site. If you want to listen, you can tune in there at my Facebook page. Number 14, almost done. Number 10, we've got to talk about insects. Now, when the cicadas emerged from the underground due to climate change, A, their numbers will overwhelm predators. B, you should close all windows and lock all doors. Or C, keep small pets inside. And the answer is A. They will not overwhelm predators like look as if happened here. We had a previous program at the College of Complexes on this, and it created food insecurity in Africa. But yes, the insect population are going to be on the move. Things like African honeybees will be moving further north with increasing warmer temperatures, something that's been focused primarily in Texas, I believe. But things like that are going to be happening. Invasive species of insects will be on the move and migrating around. And they're called marauding insects. And they will be becoming a leading threat to national forests over the past decade already. And it's made worse by drought and climate change. So go ahead and just say, oh, who cares? It's climate warming. No big deal. Yes, but they haven't taken some of these things into account. A country without our national forest disappear from the United States. It could happen. No trees anymore in the United States. And last of all, regarding forests, the question is, U.S. forests should not be logged and instead preserved as habitat for a relic hominid species. A, lumberjacks should find something else to do for a living. B, there is no such species. And C, numerous reports of encounters are nonsensical. I gave an entire lecture on this, and certainly we've got to preserve the forest. There's an endangered species, Sasquatch. There's been 140 reported sightings annually, including Illinois, of Bigfoot. So this is a reclusive. They live depth in the forest, and by eliminating these, we're bringing an end to the species. You can see that some of the photos taken as verification that there's proof. Do you need more proof than that? Come on. What more proof do you need? Anyhow, that's it. And last of all, Trump, again, directed federal agencies to examine ways to get this, to bypass endangered species protections, to ramp up, you want to ramp up timber production over 280 million acres. There won't be any forest left. You put these maniacs in charge. The forests are being, yeah, you got marauding species of insects, and then you got this kind of policy. It's total insanity. It really is. And when I say there won't be any forest left because of Trump, it's very accurate. It's going to happen. Anyhow, this is your score. If you got only 1 to 5, you failed. If you got 6 to 10, I'd say you're lime green. But if you got 11 to 15, I would have to say you're a friend of the earth. Okay. And so thank you for coming. And I hope you got a little greater awareness of ecological issues confronting us right now. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, Tim?
Yeah, we're gonna be asking you questions now, Charlie. Um, are you there? Okay. Um, all right, I got a question here real quick. Just give me a second here real quick. Yeah, I know we're gonna go. All right, hang on. Shit, come on, god damn it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Charlie, I'd like to know real quick why you think a socialized food system is much better than the one we've got going now. We still have supermarket shelves full. The pricing mechanism takes care of any shortages or overproduction by the pricing signals ruled by the market. It doesn't require a lot of government intervention. And the only thing that's problems with the equipment is the right to repair. I mean, a lot of it's been taken over by John Deere, and there are no right to repair deals, and the not in sharing the information with the manuals on it. They have to take it to a dealership. What makes you think that socialized farm production is going to be a lot better? Remember, I'm thinking about the former Soviet Union, what happened in the Ukraine, and what happened in some of the other things. What makes you think it's going to be superior to doing this stuff? And go ahead.
You don't think there's going to be food shortages with global warming? You didn't see that picture of that field that was dried up? Now, if there's no corn, you're going to have to look at just like wartime. Where are you trying to hide, pretend you don't want? Didn't you see that? Did you or did you not see that picture of that field dried up that used to be corn?
Yeah, yes, I did. I saw the field that
Okay,
dried
now
up.
if there's no food, the commercial capitalist system broke down. That there's no food, and that took place during commercial agriculture. And the same thing, I've studied a lot in detail what they did in one country such as Great Britain during the war when they faced food shortages. They, in fact, took control over every farm in that nation, in Great Britain. They had inspectors come out and they told them what to grow, where to grow it. And they took over, they did a complete inventory. And if you did not comply or did not perform, they seized control of the property. And you're confronted with, you've got a president who's not doing anything, and Republicans, and the commercial people are not doing anything. They're selling oil, fossil fuels. Who cares? They're not responding. You think why has the commercial world respond? What do you mean by producing fossil fuels? That's what they've done. They've worsened the problem. And as a matter of fact, it is infinitely more efficient fleet management. I gave an entire program on this. The government in the United States already does it. They have a fleet of vehicles and equipment of their own, and they manage it quite well. And they're doing it already. In GSA, there is a unit called fleet management. And they have people who already know how to do it, just like the rent-a-car companies. Things like that only makes good sense. Instead of each individual farmer trying to figure out how to fix a tractor or a combine. He doesn't have welding equipment. He doesn't have parts. He doesn't have the right tools, everything. And you get, amazingly enough, you cited an example how they're not sharing manuals. And that's how that makes it even worse. You gave me an example why all the tractor companies and their repair manuals should be public access, should be printed by the government printing office. It only makes sense. It's exactly, and Great Britain, they monitored everything. And they did quite well. They actually did. They knew what, I still remember there was the guys had never grown flax before. You need flax for rope and things like that. And one farmer was saying, well, I never grew flax before. And they said, yeah, we need so many acres of flax. You know, and they told him. And they came out and checked. Yes. Infinite. Now we think factory farms are the best application of food production. Are you for real? No, anyhow. All right, does that answer it?
All right, yeah, it does. Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, to continue off of Tim's question, like food is still one of the most abundant resources in the world. A third of it is wasted. Like there's so much of it that it would be hard to really justify rationing it. I understand collectivizing farm equipment. I wouldn't trust the current state to do that because it's too corrupt. But I think if you could do it at a community or localized level, collectivized farming could work. I'll give you that. But wouldn't it make more sense to ration, make sure everyone has equal access to what nature gave us in terms of, enough sunshine and water and land to grow food and to mine the earth for elements they could make metals out of and make their own farming equipment. Like I'm okay with collectivizing farms as long as you're okay with households growing their own food without the food, the food inspection.
I'm not.
Or
Hey,
help
I'm
with
not.
do you want?
I'm not going to grow my own food.
Well, are you going to let other
I am
people? 'Cause
not
that's the only.
growing my own food.
I'm not trying to make
My
you, but
neighborhood is
you
not.
going to let? Are you going to let other people though?
Yes, it's called.
Good. Just
Yeah.
making sure.
Um. It's when you centralize. You don't understand. Now, my own agency of the government. Man, I don't know how to explain this. Instead of every agency having a print shop and printing publications, the General Services Administration had one print shop for all the agencies. And there's a phrase it escapes me now, and it's in violation of the thing. You want to duplicate everything, and then say it's efficient. That doesn't make sense. You want to concentrate and provide it as a service. People, instead of having everybody having their own telephone contracts, you have one telephone system in the government, and the government does it right now. And my neighborhood is not set up for growing food. There's not a farmer among us. We're city folk. What do we don't have land. We don't have access to land. How do we get, where does this land come from? I guess
All
we
over.
could grow a park. Where's the land?
There's 3,100 counties in America. It's all over.
What you're telling me? How do I get to my land?
I think government should ensure equal access to land.
There isn't land. The closest vacant land is probably 50 miles.
Okay, I think more people should have access to farms. I hope they do.
Or access to, what do you mean? I have to drive 50 miles?
I'm not trying to tell you where to get your food. I hope more people will be allowed to grow more food at their own homes and
I'm
people
not,
at farms.
I'm a librarian. I'm not a farmer. I don't know. I know more than the average person on farming, but even I this is an occupation. What makes you think they're capable of growing food? Most
What
people
makes you
haven't
think,
grown a garden.
what makes you think a government so large that's located in Washington, D.C. can provide for the food of 300 million people?
The government is very efficient at doing it, yes. As a matter of fact, I oppose this decentralization. That is just, when you decentralize, you are opening the door for fraud. Typically fraud. Anytime you decentralize, there's going to be, and there's no oversight because you're filtering out water. You're eliminating oversight. Very bad idea. Just like I told you, the Brits had agricultural inspectors. They said, we're taking food seriously. They showed up at least once a year, if not more often, and wanted to see every detail of the operation. And believe you me, the farmers took it seriously because they didn't want to lose their farm. I mean, they didn't really take it forever, but they took the farm away. They said, you are not qualified for fulfilling the needs of the nation in producing food. So we'll have people, and we'll put people in charge here who know and want to grow food. As you have a problem with that?
Decentralization is one of the 10 key values of the Green Party. That's all I'll say, but thanks for answering my questions.
Well, buying,
Okay.
that doesn't make any, they are just advocating. Come on. They want that, they threw that in there because they want you to buy truck farming stuff. I don't know why they think organic stuff locally. That's why they put that in there. Because that's where you get your organic food.
Okay, Charlie, let's move on to the next guy. Mike, you got a question? Mike,
Yeah.
why don't you grab the mic and we'll use it from here? Okay.
Charles, I think you were off on one of
This
your
guy.
statistics. You said like something 10% of greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, something like that. Yeah, that's one comment. I think the greenhouse gas lobby, I think where they effed up is that they always gave this red line. And it went, Al Gore brought it up 3 decades ago. And they said, this is going to happen in 2 years. This is going to happen in 5 years. This is going to happen in five. And you know what? All this time passed and nothing really bad has happened. Temperatures have risen. Ice caps have thinned out. But
50% of the hot air is produced by the college complexes.
no. Those greenhouse gases coming out of you. But anyway, I think that lobby and that industry, the greenhouse gas industry. Now, I'm anti-pollution. And Trump said he was anti-pollution, but money talks with Trump, and the polluters want to, if the polluters want to pay Trump to be pro-pollution, he'll do it. But I think that the greenhouse gas industry has kind of died. And we're burn baby burn, bomb baby, but we'll bomb countries just to get to their oil or their pipelines now. So drill baby drills, how babies out
Is this
there.
a question?
Anyway, so I
here?
think my question is that do you agree that the greenhouse gas industry is over? All the
No, it's not.
Brian Wolf and
Yeah,
Sky's falling.
this
Hang
whole
on,
thing
Charlie.
started.
Hold on.
This whole thing started with the Industrial Revolution in 1760. Yes, we had. It's a relatively new topic. Unfortunately, people haven't recognized it, and that's what I mean. Are you buying into that propaganda that Exxon Mobil puts out? Nothing to worry about? It's a central element of global warming. How can you dismiss it? And you're saying the well, you think conditions are you, then you have to say, one, are conditions changing? Are they staying the same or are they improving? Which is it, Mike? I shouldn't answer a question with a question. But as a result, the greenhouse gas,
Why?
is everything staying the same or is it improving? Or is it getting worse?
The greenhouse gas lobbyists lied.
Is it getting, answer my question. Is it the environment getting better or is it staying the same? Or is it getting worse?
Reach.
Where is the lie?
The greenhouse gas lobbyists lied over the decades.
You have not answered the question. Is the environment getting worse?
Yeah, and it's getting better.
Then they are not lying. So your question, it makes no sense. They told you the environment's getting worse. It is getting worse. You disagreed.
We're talking
So
about
how are they
greenhouse
telling
gas.
a lie?
We're talking about your greenhouse gas thing.
Well, you're lying
How
about
are they
socialism.
telling a lie? They said
lied.
it's getting
They
worse.
said the world was going to end in 2 years or 5 years. They gave all these red line of lies.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
No, as a matter of fact,
I'm just gonna let you go. All right, no camera,
so
go
you're
ahead.
saying their
This is a
predictions are
question.
inaccurate?
Um,
Okay, go on.
Oh, he's not gonna.
this is a question I have. If you were in Central Africa, would the change in the weather have affected you more than if you lived in the Midwest, where we are protected by the Great Lakes from a lot of severe weather and a lot of global warming? My question is, what if you lived in Central Africa and we're trying to farm in Central Africa with global warming on your farm?
But he lives in Central Africa.
A lot of people live everywhere.
No, from the Mississippi River to the Geek Belt, nobody lives in Western United States. Denver.
Oh,
No,
I refer back and answer your question.
are people. They live there.
People are people too, I get it.
All right, let's let Charlie answer the question.
If you recollect the slide with the corn, it said food production will be disrupted because of various things, severe storms. Now, climate change is something invented by the Republicans, but it is changing the climate. It's changing the ocean currents. It's changing the temperature flow of the currents that have. That's what I mean. It is now. Not every place is going to be affected differently, and there's no prediction on that. He's saying their precision. Where they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, they have no idea what they're talking about because their predictions, as a matter of fact, I think their predictions were on the low side. And as a matter of fact, but no, in answer to your question, no, there is no place on earth, let's say, put it this way, the weather is not going, the climate is not going to remain the same. What happens from that is anybody's guess at this time. Because the effects we saw like this, suddenly we're confronted with a higher incidence of hurricanes, which doesn't affect us or Africa or anybody, but certainly affects the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. But yeah, it's gonna be localized events. Severe weather incidences, droughts is gonna be either drought or flooding. And whatever is gonna happen. Now Mike Lee says, oh, we don't have to don't listen to any of them. Because they don't tell you what day it's gonna rain on. You know, he says, oh no, unless they can tell me what day it's gonna rain and how much rain is gonna fall, I don't listen to them. But no, it's gonna change everything. It's the worldwide climate is gonna be disruptive. We can make overall generalizations that yes, the northern climates are gonna have higher temperatures because the basic temperature of the earth is rising. The thing you gotta watch for are their tipping points. They're warning signs. And we're headed towards, so the important thing is if we're headed towards, that's what I mean. He wouldn't answer the question. I said, in which direction are we headed? Are we headed towards a tipping point? And he wouldn't answer, kept babbling. Are we headed closer to the tipping point or further away? But I don't, as a matter of fact, it's going to be talk about places on Earth. There are some of these places that are completely uninhabitable, I would imagine. The worst thing is they've been trying to stop. The thing about Africa is, amazingly, I thought I was so saddened by this. They actually had plans to stop the spread of the Sahara Desert. They were going to put a ring of trees, an oasis, and things like that. And they only did a fraction of what needs to be done. And I felt very sorry for people, the residents of the continent. I said, they've got to contain this desert. And now with global warming, that's gonna accelerate the spread of the Sahara Desert. So that's what I mean. That's what you're gonna end up with. You know. All right. Oh, by the way, I thought of it regarding is he still there? Joe? It's called economy. It's called economy of function. That's why you want to centralize things. Economy of function is the technical term, as opposed to dispersing it.
I'm just worried that more centralization will lead to more monopoly because it has.
We're worried about we're starving for food, man. You're talking some cap.
We're starving
Well, I
for
don't
food.
care. I don't care what happens to the capitalist food industry, which if it doesn't provide food for people, then why save it?
Yeah, I think that we should tax companies that waste food, and we should tax everyone that wastes everything, especially land. But I think land is the most important thing that we should be taxing to penalize waste, so that we can get food. We can let everyone grow their own food, so we can be less
We're
reliant
not
on
growing our own
corporations.
food.
We can be less
That's not going to
reliant.
happen.
We can be less reliant on corporations by
The
growing our own food.
residents of
People who want
Bridgeport
to.
are
There's a
not a
certain.
food. The residents of Bridgeport are not a food co-op, Joe.
I'm not trying to saying that I'm not saying that I'm not trying to make anyone grow their own food who doesn't want to. I'm saying that there's a social stigma against growing your own food because people are
How am
worried
I
about the
supposed
health
to
of it.
tell me how I'm supposed to grow my own food?
There are agencies that can teach you how to do that over a 6-week course. There's one in
Where?
Milwaukee.
I don't have land.
Milwaukee.
I don't have land.
Yeah, there's 3,000. I know you live in a city that's got a concentration. It's a concentrated population. Like it's
Where do we
crowded
grow
in
food?
your city. We have to move. We have to let people in concentrated areas move to other states where we have to facilitate that. Andrew Yang
So we're going to move everyone in the United States
Andrew
to
Yang
rural areas?
suggested having the government pay for everyone who wants to move to another state because of economic difficulties.
They can move if they want.
We should make use of the land that we should. Yeah, there's all these states that are underpopulated. We
So
should
you
move
want-
people there and have them farm.
So you want us all to move to
I have a
Wyoming,
question. Okay,
Montana?
Dan's got a question.
Dan's got a question.
Okay.
Let's all move to Montana.
Yay,
Dan,
Dan.
move to
Okay, now,
Alright, how's the community garden today?
Alright,
go ahead, Dan. No,
I see a land in the city for food production. Now corporations like Deere and
posted.
Cargill, Archer Daniels Midland, they're all growing corn and soybeans, which make cheap food like Doritos and pasta. And people can't survive on that. They have to eat some vegetables and some beef. Now, why can't corporations let go of corn and soybeans and let people make their own food?
Charlie Split.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what
no
I-
idea what this question is.
And everybody in Chicago could get their own little orbital land if they wanted it, if they weren't too lazy and staying at home all day.
Oh, get out of here. There's no land in Bridgeport.
There's plenty of land in Bridgeport.
No, there isn't. And they built
There is.
houses on all the vacant
They're
lots.
open lots. There are lots open that you don't know about.
I'm not growing my own food.
Walk by every year.
I'm
You
a
walk
federal
by
government employee, not a farmer.
Everybody
That's
was a farmer
ridiculous.
200 years ago. For 100,000 years, people were farmers. They didn't call themselves farmers. They were people. They didn't live in they didn't work for corporations. They didn't work in cities with 1 million people. They lived in the country with land. Poor people had land. They had a cheap-
You're doing what Chairman Mao did. He took people forcibly from the cities and he transported them to rural areas.
Oh, well,
And he
this
said,
is
"Oh,
the-
wait a minute, let me finish." And his idea was that he was going to produce. They were supposed to produce food for the country, but the farmers complained that they didn't want these kids because they had to feed them. And they said, "We don't want these. They're not farmers. Farming is an industry. It is not like a
Not a-
pastime.
It's
You're a
not
hobbyist. It is an
Okay.
occupation. It is
Okay.
highly technical
right.
these days. And an agronomist, I have respect for anyone who has degrees in agriculture. They know
is-
soil, crops. It is not something, you are a hobby.
All right, I hear
You
you.
think
I
your
hear you.
hobby will
Yeah,
not
okay,
food meet
okay. But
hobby.
when all you're growing is corn and soybeans, that's not that is an industry. That's not creativity. That's not humanity.
It's in the gas tanks and into.
Yeah, well, it's
There
not.
are 50,000
They
products.
don't make food.
There are 30,000 to 50,000 different food items available in any major grocery store in the city. I
You
have
don't need-
no idea what you're talking about. They've not
Right.
changed the dietary habits of the people. 30,000 to 50,000
What do you
different
mean
food
all that shit?
choices in a grocery store.
And they
What
all
do you
have bread
mean
and sugar in it.
You're
It's
bad.
all
You
bread
don't-
and sugar. Bread breaks down into sugar. Alcohol breaks down into sugar. It's all sugar and bread and alcohol. That's all
Ethanol.
because of corn and
okay,
bread.
Biodiesel.
yeah, biodiesel and burn, baby, burn. Charlie, how, I need to know one thing, Charlie. Hang on here. Charlie, I gotta know one thing. How is it you could say we have a food shortage when we have fully stocked supermarkets and so much are actually giving it out to food pantries? How can you say that there's a shortage?
Well, maybe you missed the point. Have you ever heard of global warming?
You've heard of global warming and the
Were
thing
you
is-
out of the room? You don't never heard of global warming? You went out
Yes, I have.
and what do
The
you
thing-
think? Do you think global warming is going to have an effect on food production?
It gets bad.
It might when it gets bad, but right now I do
When it
know
gets
too.
bad, So,
Global warming, the thing is, the wheatlands of Canada are opening up. You'll have the Northwest Passage opening up for shipping. You have a lot more connectivity around the world once that Northwest Passage opens.
what does the Northwest Passage have to do with food production?
Simple. It can get grain a lot quicker to other countries like they're doing now.
You
And-
don't think soil or land has something to do with food production? You could just
Yes,
grow
it has
food
everything to do
anywhere.
with it.
You can grow food anywhere, right?
But I'm just simply saying that collectivization
Can
is
you
not the
grow
right
food
idea.
anywhere? Is
You
that your,
can't grow food anywhere, but the thing is, our
all right,
agricultural
then the case
and
is
commercial
over.
distribution right now is working. And
They,
it's working a
as
hell of a
matter
lot better
fact,
than your
you
collectivization ever
missed a
would.
slide on food insecurity. 1 out of 7 people in the United States right now faces food insecurity.
That's
1
why
in
we have-
7.
That's why SNAP was invented.
That's why SNAP was invented, Charlie. You know,
1 in 7
That puts it,
people.
that's more related to distribution.
Ernie, go ahead.
No, I
Yeah.
just was listening. I just got on and I just was hearing what you guys were talking about.
Well,
And the
we're-
food insecurity issue is more a distribution of wealth and distribution issues than it is anything else.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
just
think it has
simply
much to
saying
do with soil.
we ought to listen a little bit more to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I thought I'd never be saying that, but
Well,
there is
you know,
quite-
wait a minute. If it costs money to grow food and you don't earn back money to, you just say, well, it's distribution. If you don't get paid enough, farmers can't grow food. Let me tell you, agriculture is real expensive, modern agriculture.
yes, it is.
And look at a tractor, $150,000 to $200,000. And you telling me it's just distribution? The farmer's got to make back. He's got to look at just for his equipment alone, $500,000. And it's a little bit more earning than distribution.
Well, I'm not saying it's only distribution, and I'm not saying that agriculture isn't very expensive and that farming isn't a very challenging industry. But, well, I didn't hear your whole conversation, so maybe I made a mistake by interjecting
did.
something.
Climate change.
Well-
Collectivization has never worked. You had all those famines from the Soviet Union, which are man-made. And remember, Charlie, when they did allow some privatization of 10% of their land, they started seeing fruit production go up. The free markets work if you let them and you keep them deregulated to a certain degree. The point of the matter is, Charlie, collectivization is already happening. It's called corporations. They bring a bunch of people into a collective sort of stock ownership, and that's collectivization right there, and it's been working.
That's why they had to come in because the government had to step in. And I came out of those congressmen out of Massachusetts, and they came in and no, capitalism had failed and people did not have food. And that justified, even the Republicans voted for SNAP because people were not getting food. It was not a
That's a much better
system.
way of, well,
It was not a system that was working. That is why we have food stamps. Don't you understand that?
they do understand that, but
They
it's a
have
hell
the
of
figures that people were not getting food.
and it's a lot easier to
That's a
have
distribution
some
issue.
it's a lot
Listen,
easier to have the government
you're
give you a
telling
check
me
to go to
to
your
say
local
it's
supermarket than to
distribution
change the
is
whole
that it-
radical system.
well, what is distribution? Some omnibus term? I just told you, you need $500,000 in equipment.
Yeah, you
I'm
do, and that's why
talking
they go to
farm.
corporate farms.
You need
That's why the farms.
every farm is a corporate farm these days.
Yes, I know.
Now, why
Now,
should
There,
we?
there are 68,000 farms in Illinois and they're not all corporate.
Yes.
The United States government has been subsidizing the family farmland disappeared in 1950. And the consolidation began then. Yeah, at one time, there, matter of fact, unlike other your capitalism, why does the government pay to keep that particularly small business? It's a small business. Why does the government of the United States pay to keep that kind of small business in operation if it's not profitable?
All right, who's got another question? All right, let's come on up. Here we go. Come on up and here's a hardball question.
I like
Let me
this
get the-
distribute. What do you think? Farmers grow food, and then they say, "Geez, I wonder what we're going to do with it."
Capitalism works every time it's tried. And Deere has done wonders. They invented the steel plow.
Yeah. A lot of good.
Go ahead, back up a little.
And these $200,000 tractors are doing a lot more work than we ever could done with a horse.
You can't lock people out of their property.
Yeah,
The invention of the steel plow was responsible.
Modern agriculture is feeding much more people than your communist system ever did.
for
all
these
right,
bumper-
Charlie, go ahead.
Well, he's giving me bumper sticker slogans. As a matter of fact, he mentioned the invention of the steel plow by John Deere, which actually was the steel plow was responsible for the dust storms of the 30s.
Oh.
They came in, they needed a plow, a special plow to deck grass in the Great Plains, had never been plowed. So he invented a plow that could do it. It didn't scour the thing. But when they opened up that grass, it was prairie. When they started trying to grow food on natural prairie, it was a mistake. And that's why he ended up with a dust bowl, dust storms for 10 years. It went from 1931 until the fall of 1939. And they thought every year it was going to start raining again. Well, they were wrong. The locations where it shouldn't be, they should not have. The railroads sold them land. Capitalist railroads sold land in the Dust Bowl. They took, oh, good, Santa Fe Railroad was and Union Pacific sold this land to farmers, saying it was wonderful, good cheap acreage, good farmland, and it was worthless. The same thing with the Great Northern Railroad up north. They sold land that was no good for farming. They put out, that's how capitalism works. They put out real colorful posters, sent out land agents, told everyone, go west, wonderful land, and you will grow and grow and grow. And the rain follows the plow. The rain follows they actually, that's what I mean. The West was a drought area. What they had was a few years of rain. And then suddenly it reverted back to its normal dryness. And that's why the Dust Bowl came about. The railroads sold land to people in areas that had always been dry. They had a few good years of rain, and people thought maybe it was okay then. That's when the railroad said, oh, this is wonderful. Rains all the time. And then it went back to its normal climatic dryness. And that's where you got the Dust Bowl. And John Deere, they had plowed up the grasses, and that enabled the dust to blow around.
So you're advocating a government controlled by the likes of Donald Trump, then, correct? If you're advocating government control, one guy controlling it all, aren't you kind of getting, if we get a leader like Trump in there, it'll screw everything up. I'd hate to see your collectivization doged. At least under commercial,
You got
commercial.
out of order. Out of order. You got to ask questions.
I am asking a question. What
You
makes you
already
think
know
that
you
you're
didn't.
socialistic? What makes you think your socialistic farming and rationing cannot be doged?
Can't be what? Those.
Can't be doged. taken over by the by the Department of Government Efficiency.
It's called
What do you
economy
think?
of function. I already explained that.
Oh,
And you
baloney.
have centralized maintenance of
I want
equipment.
those to take care of bureaucrats like him.
You want those?
The farmers
care of
already do it by the formation of co-op movements. You ever heard of the co-op movement?
I know what the co-op movements are, but it's voluntary
As a matter of
association, not
fact,
mandatory.
it would
It's
bring some,
voluntary association, and and I know a co-op is like silos, like things. It helps market efficiency, and they do it voluntarily, not because of some government edict or mandate.
you have
That's the
government
difference.
farms, you have government farms run by government experts, guys like me with credentials.
Yeah,
You want to
let's
run a
call
Old
you want to run a
McDonald.
farm.
You
You said
want
you want to
old
run a farm,
McDonald.
but you won't make your own food, but you want to run a farm, Charlie.
Oh, how am I gonna grow food? I've got a backyard, Joe, that's
But you
6
said you
feet by
can run
8
a farm because you're a bureaucrat.
I'm gonna grow my food. Where am I gonna? I got a 6 by 8 lawn,
Then how am I going to trust you to regulate
and
farming?
I'm gonna. What am I gonna do? Grow what? Grow what? This is the
What do you know about farming food that allows you to regulate it properly?
what do I know about?
What do you know about food that allows you to regulate it properly,
Because
Charlie?
early in my career, my first job out of college was working on a dairy farm, and I've been following agriculture ever since.
Okay.
35 years of experience. I've given lectures here at the college on food production. Yes, and you have, who do you have farming? Old McDonald or or a government expert?
Who else has a question now? All right, who else has a question? All right, with that, we're gonna go into rebuttals. And we'll move the mic up to the podium so we can get up here and get our rebuttals in. So please bear with me for a minute and we'll get right to it.
Don't I get an applause?
Hey. Go ahead, we're gonna give everybody about, we'll give everybody about 5 to 6 minutes. Go ahead. Go ahead and get up there and let's get started. Hang on a minute, let me get our speaker views in somewhat a semblance of order now.
Lower
The
the
first thing I
screen.
want to say is that
Lower.
Charlie
There.
Paidock is holding the College of Complexes together. If he weren't on it every
Right.
and making plans and explaining to people what's going on, this place would not exist, or it would be turned over to,
Probably me.
you know, you have the, like, I would really like it if me and other people could follow the rule about not making personal comments. I almost did myself, and I think it's a rule that we should follow. But I do want to defend Charles Paidock because he does keep the College of Complexes on track as much as is possible.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to give you a lot of theories. My first theory is global warming. We look at global warming as having started with the industrial age, and we say, oh, look at all the carbon that's been added to the atmosphere since 1850 or 1790 or something like that. But global warming began when man discovered fire. Because when this species discovered how to make fire, they also discovered how to cut down trees and burn them. And this was before they started writing down history and before the Sahara Desert was a desert. because it was a very hot place. There were lots of sunshine, and the trees were all cut down, and this was the first place to experience the kind of dryness that Charlie showed uh, in that slide where he had the nice green corn on one side and the dead empty field on the other. The first place that went was the Sahara. But people learn to live in the Sahara, and they do live in the Sahara, and there are people who live there that have lives and cultures, and they are human beings, and they live in the Sahara, which used to be a forest. This is my theory, it used to be a forest, but global warming began not hundreds of years ago, but thousands, if not tens of thousands of years ago, when human beings started burning the things that grew. Okay, so that's my first theory. The rest of this is not so much of a theory, except I can't remember people's names who did this. There was a person, named Lavoisier. Lavoisier discovered oxygen, and he had his own lab, and he developed his own equipment, and he discovered the oxygen in the air, and then other people went on to discover the other gases in the air, one of which was carbon dioxide. And there was a guy whose name I can't remember who realized that carbon dioxide was filling up the atmosphere and displacing oxygen. But this was at least 200 years ago. And this guy, if I could just think of his name, I don't know it for sure. He said that if we keep putting carbon dioxide in the air, it's going to displace a lot of oxygen. And he was, of course, correct. But it had already started hundreds of years before he was born. So I really should prepare a better talk on this. One of my favorite papers is by a guy named Wirt, and he gives the history of global warming. There's a young woman named Greta Thunberg, and her great-grandfather was a person who predicted what was going to happen with global warming a long time ago. His name was Arrhenius Thunberg, and Greta Thunberg's father is named after him. I think his name is Arrhenius also. And so the knowledge of global warming has been in the Thunberg family for many generations, at least 4, but maybe before that, because the original Arrhenius had to come from somewhere. Global warming is something that has been going on for thousands of years, not the last 50, not the last 100. And I'm also going to ask a question. The human or animal bodies run on bodies run on oxygen. And when I was a kid, the amount of oxygen in the air was 21%. Today, the amount of oxygen in the air is 19%. So that in the last 70 years, the amount of oxygen has gone down by about 2%. But half of it was gone. Half of the oxygen in the air was gone when the industrial age started. So we started out with half of the oxygen. And I'm wondering what effect it's going to have on biological development. And of course, I could say, what effect is it going to have on human development when a woman who's carrying a child is getting less than the supply of oxygen that is needed for the development of that child? And what is the effect going to be? In Satartia, Mississippi, And you can see that name in the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Satarsha, Mississippi has a population of about 900. And I almost lost my eyeballs when I saw Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And there was a sign in that movie that said Satarsha, Mississippi this way. And I thought, ever heard of Satarsha, Mississippi? But there was an explosion at Satarsha, Mississippi. And the 900 people who lived there all of a sudden didn't know what was happening. Something was wrong. So they jumped in their cars to get away, but their cars wouldn't start. And what had happened was there was a big explosion in a carbon dioxide pipeline. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air, and carbon dioxide displaced the oxygen and everything else, and it went low into the population of Satarsha. People were injured because their brains could not get enough oxygen and their bodies could not get enough oxygen and their cars couldn't get enough oxygen to start. They could not get away. So there was damage done. When carbon dioxide displaces oxygen, you're going to have a problem. About 20 years ago in Cameroon, there was a lake called Lake Nios. And at the bottom of Lake Nios was, I guess, kind of a putrid lake. It was high in the mountains. And at the bottom of Lake Nios, there was a lot of fermentation going on and a lot of carbon dioxide being produced at the bottom of the lake. And finally, there got to be enough that it bubbled up to the top. And that big bubble of carbon dioxide ran down the mountain, displaced all the oxygen, killed 1,700 human beings and 3,500 animals because this big bubble of carbon dioxide killed them. In Satarsha, it probably didn't kill anybody, but it caused damage that has never been repaired, and people are still suffering from the effects of this. And these were Americans in a small city in Mississippi. So carbon dioxide is a poison, and I can prove that. I don't have to be theoretical. Every time you take a breath and you breathe out, you get rid of that poison that will destroy your body. It is a poison. And the more we put in the air, the more it's going to affect our lives and our development. And we don't need any more of it in our air. And I would like to support another thing that Charlie said, although he didn't mention this. There's a place in the United States called Cancer Alley. And Cancer Alley, there's 2 or 3 Cancer Alleys, but the main one that has that name is in Louisiana, where there's a tremendous amount of pollution from the refinement and shipping of petroleum products. And do I have any more time?
You go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
No, I'll never be finished. I mean, someone's got to stop me. But
Well, just wrap it up. Okay.
But I passed out the flyer for Night with the Experts. But about 2 or 3 months ago, we had a young man named Justin Noble, Nobel. And Noble is one of my family names. I don't even know how we spell it, but he spelled it with an EL. He wrote a book called Petroleum 238. And of course, that's the takeoff on plutonium 238. Plutonium 238 is a very, very dangerous isotope that constantly puts radiation into the environment. So this book was about the petroleum industry and the radiation that comes through our gas stove. Every time we turn on the burner, we're getting radiation into our houses, and about the petroleum industry hiding the radiation that comes from every single petroleum product that we use. And well, there it goes.
Okay, let's
Just let me try to think a minute. Well, the book was very, very much worth reading, and it is available. It's called Petroleum 238, not Plutonium 238, but Petroleum 238. And it's an explanation. Oh, I know, I remember now what I was going to say. The original sin was created by a senator from Texas, whose name I remember from my childhood, and another person who passed a law. They passed a law, which I think is absolutely funny. You pass a law and say petroleum waste is non-hazardous waste. Now, it can be as hazardous as anything, but the law says it's not. Therefore, all of the hazards of petroleum waste have been subsumed by that law, because you cannot make a law that you have to clean up petroleum waste because it is classified as non-hazardous. And this was done probably sometime in the 50s by Senator Bernstein from from Texas, and another person, representative from some other state. But as far as passing laws go, laws are different from facts, because recently Ohio passed a law that says nuclear power is clean. It's not clean, in fact, but the law says it's clean. Therefore, if you are looking for clean power, you are going to include nuclear, which is not clean. Anyway, like I said, someone has to stop me, and I think it'll be me. I'm going to stop right now.
You're going back to your.
All right, we got Mike, and then we'll go to
So cancer.
Joe online. Okay, Mike, go ahead. Then we'll go to Joe online. Okay, let's move on.
Let's say the Chicago cheesecake's pretty good. New York.
Mike, you go ahead.
No. Anyway, yeah, so that's so some states make pollution legal. You just found out that Cancer Alley is perfectly legal. Illinois makes pollution legal. Does that sound right, Charlie?
No, let finish, Mike.
Can you hear us?
He can hear us. He's just trying not to interrupt.
How many you got here? 6?
There's 4 right now. Just go, Mike, go ahead and start talking.
Everybody has to vote. This is interactive. Just to raise a hand, good or bad.
What?
Plastics, good or bad?
Good.
Good. And bad.
Bad.
And
Bad. More bads than good. Food waste. Or good.
Bad.
it could be good at some
Didn't hear
point
the
because it
word.
just means we have an abundance.
Right. Food waste is fine. Nothing wrong with it. That cheesecake's gonna go bad in a couple days. It's organic. It's gonna return back to nature.
It's how we handle it in recycling it and
You know, food, it goes bad. It goes in,
what you do is you compost it.
but still, even in garbage, food will disintegrate. and
Yes.
Become part of the earth.
Humans
So
go bad
food
too.
waste is perfectly fine. People jump up and down about food waste. Oh my God. Food waste is fine. You know, we don't finish our dish. 3, steel and iron recycling. Good or bad?
Good.
Yeah, steel is a perfectly good product to recycle.
You just need energy to do it. That's all.
Yeah, you do. Aluminum, good or bad?
Good.
It's a
Bad.
product that can be, it's the most recycled product besides paper and cardboard.
Causes cancer.
So aluminum's good, paper and cardboard. It's fine, right? It either turns into organic material or you can recycle it, right, Tim?
Right.
Paper and cardboard, good. Oil and gasoline,
Good.
Good.
Bad.
It's good because it does provide per kilowatt hour and compactness of space.
overall I'm talking.
Overall, it's been good.
Charlie's climate changes. Is oil wars, extraction, You gotta think of the whole, but
I'm
Dan,
thinking of the whole picture, and right now, oil has been one of the biggest things that helped contribute to the betterment of mankind over the last 250 years. Now, if you want to, I also admit that it is causing pollution, but you're not going to get rid of it until you find a viable alternative, and that's going to have to be nuclear.
is it? No, because nuclears do not work in airplanes, and nuclears are not gonna fit into cars.
But you can make carbon neutral fuel out of nuclear power.
You're full of shit.
Good or bad?
Good.
Good
Good.
or bad or indifferent? I'm gonna go indifferent. Water, is water good or bad?
Dihydrogen oxide causes more deaths in the world than any other substance.
Water?
Dihydrogen oxide specifically.
What's that?
I'm telling you, dihydrogen oxide is dangerous.
What is that?
Water,
Or
water, H2O.
Dangerous?
talking about
People
drowning.
drown in it all the time. It causes flood. Too much of it, you can flood the world out. Dihydrogen oxide must be banned.
That's the developers that build like properties. You know, we all pay insurance in Illinois for hurricanes and all the creepy palm tree states. We pay for California's fires. We pay for Florida's hurricanes and floods. Wood a good product? Good or bad? Wood.
Trees are America's renewable resource.
Chainsaws.
Trees are America's renewable resource.
Renewable. Farmable. And
Yes.
it biodegrades. This
Yep.
will become part of the earth someday. Tires.
Good.
Are they a good product?
Yes. Prevent millions of deaths on the road. They provide a lot of stuff. You wouldn't have an industrial economy without them.
All right, tires can
Because
be
of
reused
pollution.
into something else.
Yes,
That
they can.
plastic
You finally
pollution.
figure
Yeah.
that out instead of burning them all or, yeah, and different turfs. They're finding things to do with them. Nuclear waste, good or bad?
Good, because you can recycle it if you need to.
Bad? Good. I'm gonna go indifferent with that one too.
It's good.
Yeah, it could be recycled. Glass is good. Cotton, like all the clothes I wear. Good or bad?
Good.
Good. It'll degrade into organics, you know, and it comes from a natural plant, right? Drugs, is
Good.
that good or bad?
It's good.
But then it's
It saves
right,
people's
it
lives.
becomes poisonous waste, right?
Well, it depends on how it's used. Yes.
The cotton doesn't become poisonous. Cotton doesn't. Everything. How many people that said everything, always, okay, right?
A lot of people were killed in the cotton trade. It was called slavery.
Cotton, the synthetics. Huh? Synthetic clothing's bad, isn't it? This carpet is synthetic carpeting. This is probably where Charlie's indoor pollution comes from. Is carpeting.
It comes from his smoking of cigarettes.
Yeah, Charlie, when did you switch to Newports? Did he?
Yeah, he was smokes Newports.
Oh.
Most of the time I've seen him, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say synthetics are bad.
Good. It provides a good interim bridge fuel till we can get onto renewables and other fuels.
Coal's good.
Yes.
Clean coal especially. Clean coal is even better. That's good. It's cleaner.
That's where your plastics come.
Yes. But you can also get,
In all the fossil
We
fuels.
can phase out a lot of diesel by going to natural gas trucks.
yes.
In fossil, there's carcinogens in fossil fuel. Nobody ever talks about that part. They talk about climate change, they won't talk about carcinogens.
Yeah, I know.
So natural gas is indifferent. How about plants? No, how about plant food?
Plant food's good. Fertilizer, if you're talking about
I
that
just
stuff.
ate Panda Express.
It's good.
made out of soy, you know. It's good, right?
Yes, it is.
A lot of chemicals to make it though, right? What do they use to make leather? Some kind of, what?
Tannin,
It's half glue.
They
Tannin.
use some funky materials that like tear up train tracks,
Got glue in it too.
like this nasty chemical.
Creosote.
You know,
No, it's so okay, leather's good and it biodegrades. It's a natural product. Pesticides, herbicides, are as good or bad?
Good,
Good, because it,
Bad.
good.
good.
Herbicides, antibiotics. How do you know if it's moderation? Antibiotics. Hey, listen. Half of corn goes into your gas tanks. Okay?
Good.
Maury,
Go ADM.
Half of it goes to feed hogs and cows and chickens. Okay?
Yeah.
Soy, pretty much. Soybeans. So when they talk about pesticides and herbicides, it's not just you're not going to eat that corn and soybeans, but guess who eats corn and soybeans? Right. Cattle, hogs, and chickens. They eat the pesticides and the herbicides, the antibiotics,
right,
and the hormones, right, Dan? So the animals eat that. That's why my doctors told me a couple months ago, they say, listen, bitch, no more red meat for you.
How do you make a hormone? Don't pay her.
I knew that was. Okay, so corn and soy are
That's so
bad,
bad.
right?
cheap, they're cheap.
Okay,
Right.
okay, Mike.
They're cheaper than grass.
All right, Mike, it's good.
Yeah.
Let's move on and get it wrapped up, please.
Bads, chemicals, those are good and bad. It's indifferent. All right, so we got the bads are plastics, especially single-use plastics. Oil and gasoline is a bad. I don't use much of it anymore for the last 10 years. Nuclear waste is a bad. Synthetic materials are bad because they don't break down, right? They're not organic and they become microplastics. Yeah, this carpet here will probably become microplastic.
Okay,
I'll give a minute, Tom.
And then herbicides and pesticides, antibiotics and hormones in corn and soy are a bad, right?
No,
Why are people eating organic?
They're
Damn.
expensive.
I know they're.
all right, we're gonna go right, Mike.
Do you trust corporations to do something in moderation?
yes,
You trust corporations?
We're gonna let Joe's gonna be online next.
Anything.
Joe, you're gonna be next. All right, Joe, we'll get you next. And then
All right, so
we'll,
really four things up there.
we need to get oil. There's still a little bit of sound problems with the computer, but, all right, Joe, you're next.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
all the things Mike mentioned, there's pros and cons about a lot of the things. I'm glad he brought that up. That could be a whole hour-long discussion unto itself.
It's not an issue.
So,
Get over it.
I do worry. I have I share Tim's worries about that. You know, if we're going to centralize control over land and food or whatever, or sorry, just food, that we would enable the current existing government. It's like that's my chief objection to most government or legal proposals. Just that that the current government would be the one in charge that have that it would stand to benefit. So I think we need to get rid of the unitary executive, which either Austria or Switzerland has done. They just have a panel of people who run things. And I think the government makes all the corporations. So I don't think the government is going to be a check against the same kind of railroad corporations that scam people into buying land. Although I do appreciate that Charlie explained that. He mentioned at the beginning the Green Party. I didn't know this until he brought it up. Green Party has adopted the Declaration of Human Rights. The Declaration of Human Rights has a provision that all school children in every nation are entitled to compulsory education. And I want to just invite people to ask what that means when you're entitled to something that's compulsory. You're entitled to be compelled to it. So we're forced to subsidize these public schools that are abusing kids left and right. 78 kids abused every school day. So I don't think I should fund that. I don't think anyone should have to fund that. I don't think it should be federal. And I worry about having a one size fits all proposal in everything we do. I think the solution is handing over control to local governments because that's where the land is. It's in the localities, it's in the regions. And we need to have if each region is allowed to represent itself or gets more representation, like if we resettle people from highly concentrated areas like New York City and teach people skills to manage land and use land wisely, I think that would be a better situation. See, I don't want to give more control over the central government because I think it'll hand over control to corporations. Like, Bill Gates has used to run a corporation. He's the largest landowner in America, probably aside from the federal government or military. And that's why people should be aware of the DC Act of 1871. It used to be before 1871 that federal government control only was in the District of Columbia in an area specifically outlined in the Constitution. And it was after that that it began to manage all this land out west. And with that, now they're growing food on it. Now they have to regulate the food and the environment and the Food and Drug Administration. They have SNAP. So it's government ownership and management of all this land that is allowing all this control and centralization. And I think that has led to military adventurism being the number one cause of pollution. We can't have environmental protection unless we decrease how often these military planes are going back and forth to other countries 10,000 miles away. One issue I have is Brad Schneider was listed early in the presentation as voting 100% pro-environment. I just want people to know that's the congressman from my district, Lake County, the 10th district. Brad Schneider accepted $70,000 combined from Abbott, AbbVie, Baxter, and Medline, which are corporate polluters. So it might be true that Republicans vote to allow pollution more than Democrats do, but Brad Schneider, if that's true, that Brad Schneider's an outlier. We need to be worried about him taking money to allow companies to pollute my county. And they get away with it because they make ETO, ethylene oxide, which is used to sterilize medical equipment. See, my county, there's a lot of companies getting rich off medical research and hospitals, and even a company, AbbVie, is making Lupron, which you can look up. I'm not going to get into that. I wanted to talk about is there's a social stigma against growing and especially selling your own food unless it's checked by health inspectors. And that led to headlines 10, 15 years ago, like health inspectors destroy food that was used in a bake sale to try to fundraise for schools, or health inspectors destroy farm to fork meal. They even put bleach on the food in one or both of those cases to destroy it. And they shut down lemonade stands that kids were putting up. So we need to have, if there are any existing still, if there are small scale private farms still in existence, they need to be working with that network of farming cooperatives. We need to have minimal state involvement. And like Tim emphasized, we need to have voluntary association with cooperatives, keeping the market in existence and trying to reduce the centralization and the monopoly at the same time by not handing over more trust to our government, which has failed us over and over and always given way to the same business interests they claim to be regulating. So I support protecting the environment. I just have those concerns. Thanks for listening.
All right, we're gonna have a short rebuttal by Jan, and then we're gonna let our Dan speak for a little bit. You said you got about a minute or so that you wanna give us a rebuttal.
This is not a rebuttal. I just wanted to talk about ethylene oxide being up in Lake County. It used to be in Cook County in Willow Springs, and the people of Willow Springs had money and they sued because they were getting cancer. They were getting all kinds of crazy shit from the ethylene oxide in their environment, and they got the thing out of there. And so where did it go? It went up to Waukegan, which is a much poorer community that will now get these diseases, and they don't have the money to go to court and fight and get this polluter out of their neighborhood. And I just wanted to say that about ethylene oxide to corroborate what Joe just was talking about.
Okay, Dan, you're next. Go ahead. I'm still looking for Ernie or Charlie to do a rebuttal if they're going to, so otherwise, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, so Charlie says corporations are good. They make a lot of good food and people should be happy with that. So, what do corporations make? It's a race to the bottom. They make corn, to feed cows and chickens and pigs. Corn is the cheapest thing. And high fructose corn syrup is like 50 cents a gallon. And corn, plain corn syrup is 70 cents a gallon. So why are they making high fructose corn syrup? Because they can make higher profits. And with those profits, what do? They get money in the bank and they give it to politicians, and politicians vote for GMOs to not be inspected, everything not to be inspected. And the only thing that's inspected is little farms in Nebraska and North Dakota and Virginia that have natural grass-eating cows, and they can't get an inspector because they're too small. So they're not allowed to sell their food to people. But they get around that by making associations, food associations, and then they're big enough to fight the Washington, D.C. bureaucrats. And as far as Robert Kennedy Jr. making America great again, or making America healthy again, the corporation, he has to fight Archer Daniels Midland and Cargill and the big corn companies. And if he can do that, then maybe America will be healthy again.
All right, I'm gonna do a quick rebuttal myself. Something that everybody's gonna have to be worried about already, especially over the next few months, is the Trump administration itself. For example, Doge has been saying they've been saving the government money. Well, did you know that the government on a day-to-day basis is actually spending more than the Biden administration did? And you can back that up with the data. Did you also happen to know that our freedoms are being eroded as we speak? You know, first it may be immigrants, then quote homegrown criminals. There's even been warnings sent out to U.S. citizens to deport, and there's no way. Oh, it's a mistake. 67% of the people now in the world are living under some form of autocracy, and even now we're seeing its rise because of something called, the dictator's playbook. First, they start by blaming immigrants. And then they say, we can solve only I can solve your problems. Then they start implementing these solutions that are not popular. They start closing down media outlets. And then, of course, with no media voice, they start doing things that are generally rapacious in nature. We've seen this so many times over the last 100 years or so, particularly with the rise of Nazi Germany. We're even seeing it in Israel right now with Netanyahu and some of his cronies. The very people that were persecuted are now the persecutors. The same people that started it are now doing it. We Americans, we used to be known as a bastion of the world, but because we elected this clown for president, we are starting to see tons and tons of problems come around our country. They're spending more money now litigating and trying to justify their policies and not. As a recent fact, Trump has said, I need $45 billion to build new detention facilities to get rid of immigrants. Just imagine what that $45 billion could do if they just did something like they did in 1984 with the Reagan administration. All they did was they registered, they paid a fee, and they were legal. And you could have a lot more of a less immigration problem. Crime, as Trump says, all these illegal immigrants coming in. There's less crime from them than there are regular white guys going in. Crime's going down. And he was handed a perfectly good economy by the Biden administration, and he's screwing it up. The problem is under them, and I don't like saying this myself because I still like a lot of the ideas that Reagan had, but not the way they've been managed. Under Clinton, we were handed a surplus. Under Bush, we got the 2008 recession. Under Obama, we were handed a good economy. Under Trump, we wound up with not only a COVID, but incredible job loss. Under Biden, it kind of got it repaired again. And now, in less than 100 days, this clown's starting to dismantle every country. If we're really looking at existential threats right now, global warming, yes, is one, but Trump's going to accelerate it. Trump is going to do what we got to do. I do not like this guy in office. He's a crook. He's operating like a gangster. And I'm sorry if any of you guys are Trump supporters out there, but this guy is unfit for the presidency. When his own Republican, Michael Bolton, said he does not need to be near the Oval Office, how in the hell could our country vote for this clown again? So what I'm saying is there's a big movement out there of what, with protests, with other things going on. And I highly recommend that you guys take a good look at a YouTube channel called the Midas Touch Network. It is one of the best places to get news about Donald Trump and his administration because, yes, they are anti-Trump bias, but they will give you the facts straightened up. Now, as far as nuclear is concerned, I really don't want to go there tonight, but I really think if we want an advanced industrialized economy and we want all abundant energy, we're going to have to do it, but do it right. Get rid of the light water reactor. Get rid of some of the other things. Go with the liquid fluoride reactor types. And we can also recycle a lot of that waste that's being used already. Now, I'm not going to say it's the panacea to end all because even the inventor of the light water reactor turned on it later on. His name was he was head of the Oak Ridge National Laboratories, and I don't remember his name right on the top of my head, but he too was a co-inventor of the light water reactor, and he eventually turned against it, saying these things are dangerous. And he too recognized global warming. His name was Alvin Weinberg, and the work that he did on the thorium molten salt reactor was trying to solve some of the biggest problems we have with nuclear power today. The thing is, the light water reactor works when it's in a submarine or it's a small scale, but not at this big scale where you have high pressurized water at over 300 psi using as a coolant, especially when they steam out there. With a liquid reactor, you have at that atmospheric pressure. Yes, you're going to have radiation, but the thing is, you have to keep those reactors going because their natural state is just shut down. Anyway, that's enough of what I got to say. And I don't think that Charlie quite gets it about capitalism. It's still the best damn system we've got in the world. It's just that when you get too much concentration of power at the top, which is what we have now, it's called oligarchy. And when you have oligarchy, you're going to have greedy men. And the only way I know how to solve the problem of greedy men is simple. Get yourself back to church, repent of your sins, and start believing in God. And that's going to be the best way I know how to do it. All right. Who's got any more rebuttal? Go ahead, come on up. Go ahead.
If all corporate heads went to church, it'd be great, right?
Probably would be a lot better off with a little more moral clarity. Greed is good. Greed works.
Bullshit.
Go ahead. To properties like Harvester, John Deere have done wonderful things. Agriculture. This is systems that work, and capitalism works every time it's tried. It does. But it depends if it's capitalists or oligarchs. Because a lot of times when you have too much concentration at the power, look at what happened at Standard Oil. Maybe in Russia, the Ukraine. But there is a little bit too much concentration of one corporation to the top in every industry right now, in a lot of cases. 1980.
Nothing new.
I know it's nothing new, and how we get rid of it? Unions and antitrust lawsuits.
Were a big mistake. Now you can argue about under Teddy regulating them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Don't have regulation. Many of these antitrust laws went after corporations that were doing nothing wrong.
Okay, so
Okay. Anybody else? Do you have? Go ahead, get up there and say, let's let you go. Tim. Tim.
Jim.
Yeah, if you got anything to say, let's get up.
What is your last name?
Bulger, B-U-L-G-E-R. Like the coffee, except there's a B. All right, who's got the next rebuttal? Let's get up there.
I'm Irish Yana, but I've been in
Mr. Mike.
having a college of complexes. One was the famous man with the cowboy boots back in the hotel over there, which was my first home in Chicago, 1948, when I came here. The St. Regis Hotel was on Clark Street. Well, what's his name? The old guy that
No, I don't.
organized the College of Complexes. I've been going since then. I'm 87 now, but I forget if I'm 87 or 97. But in any event, I was born in 1938. I survived World War II. I survived 10 years in the Chicago slums in the Near West Side, run by the Greek, Italian, and Mexican mafia. I survived that. And I survived 49 years of marriage to the same woman. And so far, I say I never succeeded in life, but I'm a survivor. And now with Jim, I want to kind of second what he said. Is very profound and I believe very true, because I was born in a place where the ancient man was born, Pelasgos. I found this from reading a couple of books. That's Arcadia in Greece, south of Athens, north of Sparta. He was born thousands of years before Adam and Eve. Pelasgos. So I'm a Pelasgian Greek from Arcadia. Now, my people in Arcadia were all mountain hillbillies, mountain peasants. And somewhere I read that the Judeo-Christian religion did not overthrow the 12 gods of Greece until 500 years after Christ. So we were the last because we're up in the mountains, remote and isolated people, and we finally were dominated by the Judeo-Christian mythology of Jesus Christ, which I celebrate now, and I go to church every Sunday, and I'm proud to be a Greek Orthodox Christian because it's the most profound, beautiful liturgy in the world. It can raise you from the terrestrial to the ethereal, from heaven, from earth to heaven. There's something like the Hellenic liturgy. And I was an older boy 5 years, so I know it. But we're living in the worst times in history. And there is a book made, there was a study done in the last year of the Carter administration. Cyrus Vance was given a project, like a Project 25. It was Project 2050. And in that one, it says that Cyrus Vance, who was a very highly respected and a brilliant man, proposed that by the year 2050, the population of USA must be reduced by 100 million. So now 100 million, that includes me. A lot of undesirable old people that, according to Mayor Rahm Emanuel's brother, Zeke Emanuel, a few years ago wrote a book, People Over F75. It was in the New York Times and Chicago Tribune, an opinion page. He said, we should allow people over 75 to die. Because what the hell, they're useless. Like me now, 81, I started going downhill. All I am is just living on Social Security and burden on the taxpayers with medical bills, in and out of hospital,
So there's, and then they're gonna get rid of the dark-skinned people, the old people, undesirable. So if there's 350 million people in 2050, 25 years from now, it'll be reduced to 250 million, but they're all gonna be strong, robust, smart, big kick-ass kind of people are gonna go out there and rule the world. Now, the ruler of the world is right here now. If you don't believe it, watch him on television, C-SPAN, a couple of days ago. There was a man who was a Jewish man among half a dozen people that came in from being held hostage by the Hamas. And he said, well, we are very grateful to you, ruler of the world, Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is nobody there by accident just because he's a New York mafia boy. This guy, he, in January 20th, talking about existential threat, there's no more existential threat because it's a fait accompli. It's accomplished fact. It's over. So in other words, like it took 500 years for them to kill my ancient 12 gods in Greece. Now it'll take 500 days for Donald Trump to destroy civilization. He's going to burn the Library of Congress, and he's going to blame it on the
Radical left.
Muslims or the radical left. He's abolishing medical treatments for older people. He's for people. So this is the gradual thing that's going to reduce the population down by 100 million in 25 years from now. And then he's burning down civilization all over the colleges, the universities, and there's not going to be any more history books because, like the Christians burned, what was it, Alexandria Library and all that. They're going to burn everything. And anything you got on your, what do you call it, your cell phones or your computer, you're going to erase all that. So you might as well get some hard copies of everything because in 500 days from now, 400 days from now, it took 500 years to kill the ancient Greek gods and to replace them with the mythological God of Jesus Christ. Now, they're going to take 500 days, and Trump, in 500 days, a year and a half from now, will erase civilization as we know it. And he'll eliminate some of us undesirable old people like me, 87 years old. So this is the end of America as we know it. And you might as well enjoy it while you can because it's not going to be around too long. And I bet you in 6 months it's going to close down the Congress, no more congressmen or senators. And then he's going to have martial law. And you see all these beautiful people, idealistic, wonderful people going out and expressing love for peace, for democracy, human rights. Well, you know what's going to happen 6 months from now? I know about dictatorships. I've seen 2 of them. I was born in one in Greece in 1938, and I saw the one the American made in USA dictatorship of 1967 to 1974. I lived about 3 months in Greece, and so you do not in any event, fascists do not make idle threats. This fake Antichrist said before he became president, he said, my dear fellow Christians. Well, please don't, Christian. He knows Christians are more stupid and more gullible than other people, and that's how he became a Christian. If he was in Turkey, he'd be a Muslim. He'd be Erdogan. If he was in Italy, he'd be Berlusconi. He'd be Catholic. This is the kind of guy that the deep state. Next time I'd like to have to be admitted here to speak about the deep state. The deep state is not those powerless pencil pushers in Washington, D.C., and those bureaucrats and all these guys that we know. They're not even the millionaires or the billionaires even the smart men like, I read his book, Bernie Sanders, he talks about the billionaires. I know who the deep state is because I got the book. It's written in 1937, Ferdinand Lundberg. America, 60 families. These 60 families from the Rothschilds down to the Marshall Fields of Chicago, 60 families, he names them all. Well, these guys, they're invisible, they're silent, they don't talk, you don't even know who they are. I know because I got the book. And I know Marshall Field because I lived there 75 years. And you know what these guys never do? They never die. I want one of you people that tell me one of you that have seen a Marshall Field. Now there's generations of Marshall Fields in Chicago. You never read about them in the obituary page. The Tribune or something, and you are nobody knows when these people die.
Okay, Yanabas. Wrap it up, Yanabas.
You know, you cannot even announce it in the newspapers when they die. Now, this is the deep state. And Donald Trump, I'm finishing with this, January 10th, January 20th, was not the inauguration of a president. That was the coronation. The deep Judeo-Christian theocratic state that's governed the world for 2,000 years, starting with Nero, Germanic, and then going to Hitler, Germanic, and now coming to Trump, Germanic. For 2,000 years, the deep state, Judeo-Christian deep state, is someone that not only inaugurated him, they coronated him. And they even have the, I finished now, heir apparent. I read about him a couple times, Donald Trump Jr. And that's why Donald Trump said, my dear Christians, if I'm elected president, you will not have to vote again. That's right. He's there forever. He's going, the deep state made him, give him $1,000, $1,000-year hereditary dynasty.
Okay, your time's up, Yanabas. All right. Very good. All right, Dan, go ahead.
Good speaker.
After this, Charlie, we're gonna get your wrap up.
I have a letter from the CEO of Archer Daniels Midland. And he was a little kid writing to him, like asking him how much sugar they make. So they make 8 billion pounds of high fructose corn syrup every year, 8 billion pounds. Now, high fructose corn syrup is worthless, no nutrition. It'll get you sick. It'll give you dementia, high blood pressure, and it's put into every food that we eat, breads, anything. Okay, number 2, Trump. What is Trump doing? He's arresting Arabs. He's sending Arab students, college students, like when I went to college students to prison in Louisiana and then El Salvador. No, I don't think that's a good thing. Because when he does that to
First Amendment.
First Amendment. I want to read the first
North Korea.
I can read you the First Amendment. I can read the First Amendment. I have it written down here.
Let's hear it. We need it.
The Congress shall make non-law
But a president can.
represent restricting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. So people can talk.
North Korea, Russia, you don't like that.
If you don't like free speech, Trump doesn't like free speech. He should be put in prison because he doesn't let people talk their opinions. So I'm for putting Donald Trump in the pokey in Cook County Jail. Cook County Jail, 26 in California,
Hotel California.
ASAP. Somebody should go and arrest them. Maybe the Chicago police, when they're not eating donuts, they could go drive to DC and arrest Trump. And take Elon Musk with them to Cook County Jail, 26 in California.
You're gonna get whacked someday.
Anyways, so he doesn't like free speech. All right, number 2, anti-Semitism. I'm Jewish. Jews. Yeah, we like Jews. Okay.
We don't like Israel.
Okay, right. So the students at Northwestern, DePaul, University of Chicago, and UIC, they were protesting, right? Protesting. They were saying their free speech. Half of those students were Jewish. Jewish students protesting the state of Israel and America for sending bombs to Israel. Now, what is Trump doing about the Jews who are leaders in the student? Maybe he's killing them. Maybe he's putting them in prison in China. Maybe he's putting them in prison in El Salvador and in Louisiana, where it's good weather all the time.
Gitmo.
Or Gitmo, maybe he's going to Guadalcanal, Guantanamo. And they're building a prison in Guantanamo for 30,000 people. I got a phone call.
All right,
What does this have to do with Earth Day?
all right, then get off this, then get into, wrap up your rebuttal.
Yeah, get rid of this guy.
All right, so
I'm
Charlie
not
said
talking
get
about
rid of this
just
guy.
babbling.
All right, we're gonna do final remarks now with Charlie Paidock. Charlie, give me a second.
That's
Hey, Charlie, hang on, we're gonna let you go now. Go ahead, Charlie, wrap it up.
All right, I want to thank everyone for coming. We covered a number of topics here, and I'll look over about 3 of them. Number 1, all of you got the answer wrong when he asked, are automobile and truck tires good or bad? They're very bad. They create plastic dust. I gave you the program on the dangers of plastic entering your brain, and you didn't even think, how do you think tires wear out? They create plastic microscopic particles of dust. Another one of your blessings of the automobile is that you get plastic particles in your brain. None of you got that correct. You all flunked that test. All right, number 2. Jan mentioned Central Africa, and I didn't understand what she was talking about. In Central Africa, they live as hunter-gatherers. For 98% of its history, human beings were hunter-gatherers. In the Middle East, however, some guy collected wheat seeds and barley, and he began what is called a farm. And pretty soon they got good at farming, and not everybody in the community had to grow food. We call that civilization. Now, amazingly enough, here tonight, I've actually heard proposals that everybody should grow their own food. Like go back in time. By the way, the people in Central Africa ate basically one kind of food like a potato that they would find and dig up. It would take quite a while to dig one up. They'd have it for dinner, big potato. Or they might supplement their diets with animal husbandry, goats or cattle or maybe sheep even. But amazingly enough, I heard tonight that we want to get rid of civilization and have everyone, regardless of their occupation and contribution to society, we should take people, instead of them doctors, nurses, and librarians, plus for everybody who could be doing better things, but we want them to be growing food and get rid of civilization. And why don't we, and maybe be correct, let's go one step further and become hunter-gatherers. Everybody, get rid of civilization altogether. No, that's what I mean. I'm nonsensical. Now, the other thing is, on the next point, I heard this, decentralization. And there's too much concentration at the top. In 1876, after the Civil War, the United States federal government closed the after the Civil War and let the Confederate States back in control of themselves. And what happened? They immediately passed laws, Jim Crow laws, re-enslaving black people. As soon as they got control, this is the 13 states in particular, and that lasted 100 years until the Civil Rights Movement, and federals had to go back down there. Eisenhower had to send troops and so forth to desegregate the schools, and they passed Civil Rights Act. So anybody who tells me decentralization works is a lot of hooey altogether, unless you think Jim Crow laws are totally appropriate. And that's what you're going to end up with. You want to decentralize? Okay, be my guest. Now, the last thing is, you guys missed the essence of my proposal is that I believe there should be a census of agriculture. There already is a census of agriculture, but we're talking about a real one. When the U.S. Geological Survey should identify every piece of land in the United States in terms of its being arability, meaning if it's forest, wetland, seashore, or farmland. And we should have immediate no farmland, I'm trying to think of the term, should be used for anything, for any other purpose. Any land rated as arable and suitable for farming should be blacklisted. The closure immediately, and it be used for only that, the purpose of growing food and no other thing. We've got suburban sprawl, which is gobbling up something like several acres a day of the farmland of the United States. We're going to run out of farm. You guys aren't thinking big picture here. You talk about distribution. As a matter of fact, I was involved in food distribution all through high school. I worked at the produce market, and where we distributed food to various restaurants, schools, and so forth. You have the government operation should monitor where the food, that's what I mean. I had a slide there called the distribution center so that you don't have any food deserts. You work them out demographically so that everybody resides within 1, 3, or 5 miles. You draw the circles of a food distribution center in which the government produces whole and nutritious food. You will allow for production of other foodstuffs, but the basic nutrients would be met. If people wanted to have other foods and so forth, candies, if they wanted sugar, that's their choice. That would not be prohibited if they wanted to spend money on that. However, the various operations of the government would be to ensure. Now, the major thing in China was that the emperor had to provide food for the nation. That was the blessings of heaven looked upon, and every year the emperor of China would go to the temple of the earth in the springtime to make religious ceremony and offerings for a good harvest. That's what I mean. That's where we should be thinking like the Chinese, and that's why you have to have a real Department of Agriculture and a real farm policy. And that doesn't mean growing food. If gardening is a hobby, people don't even cook anymore. They should be better suited to their occupations, which they like and they're good at. If you're going to grow your own food, believe you me, you got to spend time on it several nights a week and weekends. You got to do canning and making preserves and things like that. If you want to go the route, that's fine. But to produce enough to sustain yourself, that means you have to quit your job almost. The people aren't gonna do that. They don't even go in a grocery store. They don't even want to cook anymore. It's already prepared foods and takeout. That's where they're at. Look at demographically which way we're headed. People are better suited to occupations which they're trained to do, and if they're good at it, why are you taking them away from productive contributions to society to spend time digging dirt, or whatever, shoveling cow shit? That's what I mean. It doesn't make any sense. Come on, guys. You're supposed to be the college of complex. People think. Now, as their agriculture and agribusiness, if anything, they're very good at what they do. You may hem and haw about it, but on average, I've said this before, they've been producing 2 more bushels of corn per year on average for at least the past 10 years. They're good at what they do. Now, they do have some practices which contribute to global warming. Now, that's got to be looked at carefully. As what are their practices? Are they harmful on the environment, and are they harmful under the ecology of the planet? But and that's what I mean. They certainly need to be brought in check, and the only people who are going to bring them in check is the federal government. Now, the federal government, as far as I know, doesn't engage in nefarious practices. The same thing, and that would be a natural thing. I would declare eminent domain over all arable land, forest land, midland, wetlands, whatever, in the United States, and then determine if it's not it's being appropriate usage or not. That's called a management. And yes, you want anything goes, but this is a serious business now. We can't leave this up to chance. Whatever, we were talking about feeding food for the people of this country. And there's no fooling around with, I'm libertarian, my rights to do this or that. It doesn't pay any attention when it comes to utilitarian productivity of food for the people of the planet, this nation in particular, ensuring them that and there is insecurity. And all the waste is not going to take, if you got rid of all alleged waste, perhaps in restaurants, whatever, spoilage and so forth, even that is not going to make a fraction of the things. I've studied food processing, and there's very little waste in food processing. Virtually none. Everything is used in some fashion, even if there's peels and so forth. They're converted into compost or into animal feed. There's no waste whatsoever in food processing. So I don't even know precisely what that discussion was about. I have no evidence to that effect. Anyhow, I hope you all had a good Earth Day and started thinking about the Earth, and a little bit more than you did then when you come here. And hope to see you next time. Take care. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, and tonight stops our college of complexes. Let's give Charlie another little bit of applause. He did give a good speech, though I do disagree with some of his principles. But anyway, with that, I'm going to stop our recording and wish all of you a good night.